Okay, thank you all for your patience. We'll go ahead and get started. I think we have a few stragglers still coming in, but most everybody has gotten in at this point. So I appreciate the patience as we get all of this worked out. So we are recording this Zoom, or we're attempting to. This is the first time we've done anything this large, so bear with us as we work through this. We'll probably have a couple technical difficulties, and we'll get these ironed out as we do future versions of these. So we do have a number of attendees who have signed up for this. So because of that, we are going to be pretty limited on any questions during the training itself. We will try and monitor the chat. Everybody is muted, however, so we're not going to be able to hear if you're asking any questions there. If we don't answer any of your questions, please email dombso@ucsd.edu. And we will try and answer your question and also try and get information out to all the participants. We're having a slight issue with actually getting the email addresses for everybody that is participating. So we'll do our best to connect with each of you after this. And as I said, we'll get things ironed out as we go into the future. One thing I want to mention as we kick this off is, let me change this one moment. And several of the items that we'll be discussing during this meeting will involve, it'll depend on what your actual role authority is within Oracle and UCPath. So we do have some schedules up on the department website. The link is at the top. I'll also copy this in the chat. There are 2 files on here. We're working on making this a little more streamlined, a little easier to use. But those files have what roles people can request. So if you think you need a role beyond what's listed in any of those files, you're still more than welcome to request it. If it says that you shouldn't have that role, make sure that it's going through your division administrator, that they notify the business office before you request it. Otherwise, you'll get denial. So we will have to look into that. The department isn't able to control all of the roles. So even if we approve it, some things may still be denied. All this is all still being worked out. The system is what it is. We're going to do our best. So just bear with us and thank you for your patience through this entire process. This is not a department controlled process. That's why we're setting this up. So we're doing everything we can to try and get things working out for everybody within the Department of Medicine. So before I hand this off, I should mention who I am. So I'm Matthew Vanderbilt. I'm the Director of Business Analytics and Fiscal Affairs for the Department of Medicine. I run the Business Services Office, which is responsible for essentially all non-sponsored funds throughout the department. Joining us for presenting is also personnel from the Sponsored Projects Office. Greatly appreciate they're also participating in this and have been instrumental throughout the entire ESR rollout and figuring things out. So the Sponsored Projects Office and the Business Office work very closely together, and we have a lot of partnership to try and do the best we can for the department. So to get this started, I will hand this off to Erica Moore, who is the Manager of Finance for the Department of Medicine. You're still muted, Erica.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us again. Apologies on the rollout of this in advance, just because, as Matthew mentioned, this is the first time for us. So we are learning as we go, and we appreciate you joining in with us. There are a lot of trainings out there that have been organized by Central Campus. This is just meant to be a supplement for our group, for the medicine unit. So keep that in mind. We are your first contact if you have questions, and we have been working with many of you recently to walk through things, walk through the new processes that are out there. So in that case, we are reaching out to you, you're reaching out to us, and we're getting questions, and we are walking you through them. What we have found, though, is that the new system is in development still, so things might change from yesterday to today. So just keep that in mind. Be patient with the rollout. We have definitely learned a lot about patients within the last 2 weeks. We the team. There is a team, in case I didn't mention that, of subject matter experts, people in the department who have been designated that role. And we've been participating in meetings daily that have been hosted by the campus. And they are doing a really good job of keeping us up to date as far as what is happening with the system, what changes are occurring, how to address topics or issues that have come up. So for that reason, reaching out to our office is the best way to go about getting your questions answered. If you have already done the training and you've looked for the answers on your own through the training materials that are available at the finance training website. And if you've checked out ServiceNow, they have a really good library of articles that answer questions as well. So that is pretty much it. I'm going to turn it over to Brandon now.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm going to kind of jump into it. I'm going to share my screen here. So I've been getting a lot of questions through our little DOM BSO portal. So just to go into it, we are going to how to operate in Oracle. So a lot of individuals have even asked me, how do I get there? So the first step is just going to Blink. You go to Business Tools, you go into Oracle Financials. And then you are going to get into this page and you will be going to this green basket here. So you're going to go ahead and click into there. Oops. Give me a second here. The first step is setting your default settings. This is probably the most vital portion of it to make sure that you're set up, because once you go into a requisition, you're not going to be able to proceed without having this area completed. So to just jump into here, your name should already populate, but your delivered to location will not be there. Many of you who are already purchasing Oracle have already found this out, but you do want to apply the proper location. So you can just kind of type in, kind of names of the buildings. So BSB, for example, it's going to populate. One thing I can recommend is I would choose the one that goes to Trade Street so they can receive the package. It will typically is a day delay when they ship it, but at least the people who are shipping it to us from Trade Street are familiar with the building, so I would just choose this location. The next step in getting everything set up is setting up your charge accounts. As you can see, I've already set up 2 of them, one for cardiology and then one from for the business office, but I'll go ahead and show you. Go ahead and hit this plus sign, create sign. You're going to scroll down into it, and then this little blue section here, you want to select charge account. And I get a lot of questions about this because you can fill out a majority of these items, but the accounts won't be there. So let me go ahead, pass that. So this is off of the chart strings. So for instance, I'm going to use MED BSO2. And the entity is 16130. So a lot of these things are just going to kind of populate through. And again, this is all off the chart strings. And then the financial unit, 300010. Count I'm not going to have. Then I go into function, 400. Program, location, which it's going to be all zeros. Project, it's 1009593. Activity, it's going to be all zeros again. So this is like the key function here, and the common question I get is in regards to the account. So I typically just put the cursor in there and then I hit the search function. And then it's going to give you all these accounts. And what you have to do is basically hover your cursor over each of these and choose the most appropriate. And as you can see, this account number 163003 is equipment clearing. That's obviously not going to be a very common one for most people. But then you can just kind of hover over additional items. And let's just say hypothetically, this is the one that we want. You hit OK. And so, for instance, if the nickname I think is also really important. So it says it's the business office index. I do BSO, and then I'll just do equipment. I just do save and close. So that's the most important component of it, because when you're going through the requisitions and what have you, you have that all set up, and it's, you know, comes into play once you're actually doing the purchase. So the next step, what I'll do is I'll do a basic. Actually, I'll step into the next question that I've been getting is, how do I see requisitions? So if you can see from this page here, you go to manage requisitions. And let's just say, I don't want to do requisitions I have done because I've only done one so far. So I'm going to do someone that I'm familiar with, someone from a lab in genetics. It's Lynn Wayne from genetics. I'm going to go ahead and choose her. I do a search. And the reason I'm searching her is maybe she has some questions in regards to something she submitted, but she doesn't have the requisition number. So here are the list of items that she submitted. It gives you the status, the fund status, the order, if there's a purchase order aligned with it. So that's one way of looking it up based upon the actual individual submitting the requisitions. If you have the rec number and maybe you didn't submit it, you can apply the requisition number here and move forward from there. I can show you how to purchase an Oracle. It seems pretty simplistic to some degree, depending on what you're trying to purchase. But for general purposes, I've been getting a lot of individuals trying to buy paper for their office. So if you go to this shop category toolbar, let's go ahead and choose paper. This looks like a good item for our office. I'm going to go ahead and add this just to my cart. I've clicked the cart up in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to go ahead and review that purchase or the item that I put in my shopping cart. So this is another key component, and a common question I get is this room number, or, you know, how do I know that they're going to ship it to me or what have you? You can put, you know, 258C is my office in the lab or what have you. Description, paper for BSO office. All the items are here. I can see what I'm purchasing. And this is where it comes into play when you do charge account nicknames. So I did BSO equipment. That's not adequate. That's not the index or the chart string I'm looking for. So I go to my business office. And what happens is the chart string populates here. I have everything in play here, and I go ahead and submit. I don't want to submit because I'm not trying to buy paper from my office at this point in time since no one is there. So those are that's the general items for Oracle. There is another item. I can give you an example. If you're trying to pay for an invoice, for example, it's come your way, or you're trying to get a service. So if you scroll down a little bit, this box of request forms kind of gets you through that process. So you go to the services with time-based rate. This is just one example. Go into here. So what I'm going to do is, this is for an example of something I've done before, is a job elephant. So advertisement for a position. So I'm just going to do a job elephant advertisement. Category name, this is one that you're going to have to tinker around with. It does not give you something you always need right away. Should give me something here. So service. So I'm going to go ahead and choose that item. Again, this is something you just have to play with the words in regards to finding kind of the area, the category name that you're looking for. You can do whatever the quantity is, kind of like Marketplace was before. You just do how much, what the quantity is. The name, you can see majority of those items that you do, or at least on my end, I just do each, so EA. Price, hypothetically, we're going to say it's $200. And then in the supplier, this all should be in the system unless it hasn't been loaded previously, which was the payment compass. So we'll do job elephant. Quote number, just hypothetically, this is our quote number. And just like previously to the Marketplace, we're just going to kind of go down the line. It's a one-time purchase. Put in the dates, the appropriate dates that you need or that are necessary. Where will it be performed? UC San Diego. And once again, you only have to do the blue asterisk locations. You don't have to go into other details. I'll do none of these apply. And have the service been performed? Yes, but I'm going to wait for the PO. And then advertise for cardio. And then at that time, I would add to cart. And then as you'll see, the item is in the cart. This is taking a while, obviously. And then I would go ahead and submit, but I just don't want to go through those steps because I don't want it to get locked in there. So that's the example through Oracle, a basic overview and kind of what Erica and Matt has already touched on. If you have odd nuances that you're having some issues, please email us, and that way we can kind of dig a little deeper and maybe help with you. And if it needs more, then maybe we can do a Zoom meeting together, kind of see where you're getting stuck. But those are some of the ideas of how to work through Oracle. But the key takeaway is when you're in this system, the number one thing is setting up your default settings here, because it will make the rest of the process easier. This is just kind of the step that takes a little bit longer. And I know that there are preparers out there that have a lot of indexes, or now we call them chart strings, to apply. And the biggest takeaway is make sure you give them appropriate nicknames so that you know which one you're using when you're applying it to the purchase.
Thank you, Brandon. We had a couple questions in the chat, but I'm hoping we've answered those. So we'll hand it back over to Erica for the next section.
Thank you very much. Our next presenter, let's see, is up.
Erica, I believe it's me again.
Yeah, I was just going back to your slides over here on the side here. Okay, go ahead, Brandon.
Okay, so again, the next section here, maybe many of you have already kind of dug into this and you've already tried it out, and this is kind of like a basic overview again. So this is going into the travel portion of it. Again, people have asked me, how do I even get there? So I'm more than happy to show. I go into business tools, Concur, travel and expense. So once we're in here, this is another thing similar to Oracle itself. You go into the profile setting and you just want to make sure your settings are appropriate. You can set up your own personal information and your own items, and that's something that you'll do on your own. Another key takeaway is if you are a preparer, you need to make sure that the faculty members, the directors, supervisors, whoever it may be that you actually prepare for, they need to go into the system on their own. It is something they have to do. And there are 2 areas that they need to get into depending on the items. But typically, if they're a faculty member and they're asking you to prepare, you're going to want to have them do the request delegates and expense delegates. So you want both of these items. And for example, just give you one quick example. I'm going to request a delegate. Not that I would ask this person to do this for me, but let's just say hypothetically, we want Matt. I want Matt as my delegate. I think at this time it is a good idea to go ahead and check all these boxes that are available. I think it would make the process a little bit easier, make sure you're not skipping anything. And the same thing, once you do the request of delegates, you want to do the expense delegates as well. So it's the same format. You're going to be looking at the exact same thing. But again, the preparers cannot do this unless the individual, the faculty member, the supervisor, the director physically goes in there and elects someone to submit for them. So I'm going to delete this. Maybe not. So to kind of get into the process of starting a request, it is a 2-part process, similar to what my travel was before. There's the trip, and then there's the travel. The trip was the initial submission, getting into the system. You have to get it approved, and then once you got to that approval status, it was the travel, and you submit your expenses. So it's very similar in regards to that type of structure. So again, you're still on the main page. You're going to go to requests. You do a new request. And anything, so just as you take a look, anything that has a red bar next to it, you do want to apply, you have to apply an item to it. For safekeeping, I would add even more, even in this fund section, because I found that this doesn't ask you for this item, but it does alarm you or give you an error that it needs to be in there. So let me just go back to the request, just because I have a template in here, just to give you an idea of what it will look like. So when you're in the system, you have the trip name, so whatever is most appropriate for the trip name. You know, let's say it's Dr. Navio trip or what have you, but this one is test 1. It's an employee. There are other options, student, non-employee. So there are multiple drop downs to apply. Trip type, in-state, foreign, moves, relocation, out of state. Trip purpose, this is probably the most common is for training, like if there's conferences and what have you. And then you select the travel dates. And then it does give you the option, will this include personal travel, yes or no? Majority of them obviously will state no. And then you do, or where it's starting from, so San Diego, California, in this case. And just for this purpose, San Diego, California, United States. Now, when we scroll down into this area, this is all coming from the chart strings. So this is when it comes into play that you actually have access to your chart strings, or at least Excel sheets that state what your chart strings involve. So again, all these items, except for the approver itself right here, will come from that. And you can apply those in each of these boxes. One thing that we're asking from the department would be under the comment section, if you could please apply the previous, what it was called, the index itself. And the reason we're asking that is it will make the approval process go smoother and quicker. For individuals like Nithya, myself, maybe Erica or Michael Harris, we can look at this quicker and review and approve it faster for you. So it's going to be in your best interest if you could please apply that, at least for the next couple of months, so that we can get these processed and taken care of for you. There are other tabs in this section. You do not have to apply expenses, specifically if you don't have expenses at that time when you're submitting just for the trip, or the request, I should say. But there are items you can apply in here. They're all in this section, you know, whether it's lodging, airfare, and what have you. I've applied some of these items. So you just, wherever there's the red bar, you go ahead and apply those areas. One stay in La Jolla, you just put the estimated price. So once you've completed this component, excuse me, you would go ahead and submit the request. I'm not going to do that because then it goes through the pathway and I'll get denied anyways because it's a test. I've already been denied once. So you do the submit, the request. It will go through the approval process. So more than likely, it'll be Nithya in the business office. If not, it'll be another individual, possibly myself, will review, and then it goes internally for review and approval. This is all can be tracked on your own to see where you are with the status. Once it's been approved, then you have the ability to go through the expenses. So say the travel is complete, you're going to go to that next step. So we're going to go into...
Brandon, may I interrupt you for just 1 minute?
Of course.
So there's a question in the chat that I think may be relevant for us to try and get through. Has there been any discussion yet on how travel gets submitted for non-employees? Like if we have a recruit that we're reimbursing for coming out and interviewing, has there been any discussion on how we handle those reimbursements yet?
I don't have the details on that. I know that's been discussed in the hypercare meetings. I can dig deeper into that after this and see if I can find a more detailed answer. I know there was another individual that submitted something similar to this and they were paying with their own credit card. So that's something I can look into.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and thank you, Marcia, for the question. That's a great question. So we'll try and get that information out to everyone as soon as we know what it is.
Okay. So the next step is when you go into the expense. So let's say it's been approved. As I was stating before, it's gone through the approval steps, and say hypothetically this is the expense that's associated with, or the item that's been approved. Again, I was unable to do it because internally they won't allow me to do a test sample. But if we were to go in here, this is where you start adding your expenses. So I'll give an example, but here are some expenses that I've already applied. There's hotel, car rental, airfare, and what have you. And you apply it in here. But in this case, we're going to add an expense. Let's just do airfare again. Just say it happened back on the 6th. It's ticket number 1234. 1235. $100. If you want to apply any additional comments, go ahead and attach the receipt. So this is not the actual receipt. I don't have one, but this is just an example. So we'll do the save and expense. So you'll get some other expenditure types. There are some other items. So let's go ahead and go into here. They're going to ask for what type of expenditure type. So there are many items to drop down. This is another thing where you kind of have to type in what you think is what's being involved. I'm doing travel in state San Diego. One key item you want to take away is when you're applying the expenditures, you want to look for the item that says SD at the tail end. If you do OP, you'll get the item kicked back to you. So San Diego is based off the UCSD, so you want to choose that option. Saving the expense. I'll still give me an alert because they want me to do the report details and the manage request. So what that means is here's all my expenses that I've applied. Everything's ready to go. I'm going to go to report details. I'm going to manage my requests. So the last item here. I'm going to add, which the blue button up the upper left. Now I don't have any available requests because internally they wouldn't allow me to do that. What would actually be there is your approved request and any request that's been approved. So let's say there's 4 of them. All you have to do is click on the cursor. Imagine there are these items here. You just choose the appropriate request. You do that, and then you would submit, it would attach. It would then go to our office, the business office, and then it would allow us to review and approve it. We might come back with you with questions or what have you. From what I was also told, if it hasn't been approved, it will get kicked back and you'll be notified via email. A lot of these items, when they're coming through to track, you're getting emails as well. So that's helpful. I know it can be annoying at the same time, but that is how you would do the request followed by an expense. So it's a 2-part process. And that's it.
Great. Thank you, Brandon.
All right, we're going to go on to the next section, but before I do, I wanted to mention that in addition to the meeting being recorded, we do have some slides and we will send those out to the group. Also, I want to remind you that if you have any questions, send them to dombso@ucsd.edu. Our plan is to take all those questions and get back to the group as a whole so that everybody gets feedback and gets updated. And you might not have a certain situation going on right now, but you might be facing it in a couple of weeks. Yes, please use the email to send your questions to us. We will try and answer the questions that are in chat as they come up. We'll continue to do that. But sending it to the email address will ensure that everybody gets the answer in correspondence. We're going to go on to the next section now, and that is going to be presented by Sam in our sponsored projects office, and the topic is non-PO payments.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Sam Chin Huang. I'm one of the assistant directors for Sponsored Projects Office, and I'm going to be going over the non-PO payments and reimbursements. Let's see. Erica, do I have screen share access right now?
You should be able to, Sam.
Okay. So let me go there. All right, So what most of you are used to doing is the My Payments that encapsulates a lot of reimbursements to both UCSD employees and non-UCSD employees. But with our new system change, it's split up now. So the determining factor for reimbursing people that are non-PO related, if it's UCSD employees, it's going to go through Concur. And then if it's non-UCSD employees, it's going to go through Services and Support, and you're going to have to fill out a form for that. And then these are the categories that each of the reimbursements are going to be applicable for. And then I'm going to show you, okay. So again, just to reiterate, because a lot of folks get caught up in the different systems that we're using. I know it's not intuitive and it's very different, but if it's UCSD employee, you're going to go through Concur. This is the interface for that. And then if it's non-employee reimbursements, you're going to go through Services and Support. And most of you are familiar with it also being called snow tickets. And so I'm going to go over the non-employee reimbursements first, which is through Services and Support. When you log on to the Services and Support, you're going to go to Budget and Finance, and then from there, it's going to bring you to this page, and you want to go down to Invoices and Payables and click on the Payment Request Form.
Hey, Sam, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you able to share by chance the slideshow so it's a little bit larger? I think we have a few people that are having trouble seeing all the text.
Okay, let me see if I can go to the web and then show it that way.
That'd be great. Thank you. And while you're doing that, could you explain the snow tickets just a little bit more? I think we have some people that aren't totally familiar with that, including myself.
Okay, let me. So the old system, I think it was called ask.ucsd.edu, and there is also a BFS support as well. Both have merged into what's now called Services and Support, and you get to that web page by putting in support.ucsd.edu. And so a lot of the questions and troubleshooting is from here now. So there's different categories for it. So you want to pay attention to if you're asking for budget or ordering supplies or any type of payment issue, that category is going to be budget and finance. So when you click on that, you're now in the budget and finance section. And so this is really useful. These are what we call knowledge-based articles. They're being published daily with new information, new guides. And so, for instance, one of the things we talked about today was like how to get roles. So you can put that into your search field. There's all these guides on how to do things. So that is for knowledge-based articles, KBAs. But if you actually want to put in a request, you'd want to go back home to your budget and finance and get help. And then from here, this is what I'm talking about. So there's all these areas. So most of the time you're just going to be submitting a ticket because you have a question. But in this particular case that I'm covering, it's to pay a non-PO reimbursement. So you would click on the payment request form, and then it brings you to the form, and then you'll fill it all out. And keep in mind that the entity that you're paying to, they have to be registered as a payee. You'd enter their information here in the supplier name. It can be a person, a vendor. You just have to make sure that they are registered. If they're not, you'll have to make sure that they are set up through Payment Compass, and you can request for them to be set up as a new payee on Payment Compass here. Let me go there really quickly. and it would be here, new payee request. So you want to make sure that they're set up. Otherwise, you will not be able to complete this payment request form. And that's how reimbursements are done for non-UCSD employees. So I'm going to go back. Sorry, I'm toggling between the PowerPoint and the web.
As Sam's got the next screen sharing coming up, just a reminder to everybody, if there are any questions that we don't answer today, please email the dombso@ucsd.edu and we will get back to everyone with that. And we're also trying to record this, and we'll try and make that available to everybody as well afterwards, as well as the PowerPoint slides that we have today.
So as mentioned, as Brandon mentioned earlier, Concur is a different area than Oracle. So you'll want to log on via Blink, Business Tools, Concur and Travel, click on that, and then it will take you to what you've already been seeing in the previous slides. And then from there, it brings you to this page when you create a new reimbursement request. So the type that you'll want to choose is, I believe it's other reimbursements. And then all the highlighted fields, you'll have to make sure they are entered correctly. And then for the chart string and project and task information, you can get that information either from your fund manager or one of the contacts at the business office if it's non-SPO related funding. And one thing that I want to highlight is to make sure that you select the filter to be text, to be code, because otherwise it's not going to show.
Is there anything we can do to enlarge that a little bit, Sam? We're getting some comments again about not being able to read some of the text.
Okay, let me see, 1 second.
Sorry about that.
Okay. It's probably best if I show you in here. So as Erica was saying, you'll get a copy of this and hopefully you can see it better there. So I'm at the Concur, and then if I go to expense, create, is it better viewing now?
That's a lot better. Thank you, Sam.
Okay, so we're going to that, and then so these are all the fields, and then here's how you'll toggle between code, you'll see it comes up. Okay, so after you fill out all the information, then you'll create the report, and then you're going to do the expense report as previously shown by Brandon. And then from there, you'll want to upload your invoices. Sorry, I'm going back to my PowerPoint. And then you'll combine your receipt and the expense that you just created, and then you should be able to submit your report. And these are the screens of what it's going to look like. And then after you've submitted, you should be able to see that it's been submitted. And that's it for me for reimbursements for UCSD employee and non-UCSD employee.
Thank you, Sam. We're going to turn it over to Michael Harris, also known as Mickey, in the business office, and he's going to be discussing the procurement card that replaced Express cards.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Harris, also go by Mickey, and I work in the business services office with Erica, Brandon, Matthew, and Nithya. Let me share my screen real fast, and I will go over some of the changes, the rebranding of the Express card system to the procurement card system, and then how to process procurement card requests and expense reports. So hopefully you can all see my screen now. And let me know if this text is not big enough, and I can toggle my screen to presentation mode in PowerPoint if that works as well. Anyway, to align, to go over some changes to the Express card system, which was rebranded the procurement card system starting in July, I'll go ahead and do that first. So the first important thing that everyone should know is that if you already have an Express card, you don't have to request a procurement card. Instead, you can continue to use your Express card as it currently is up until its expiration date. So say, for example, you had an Express card that had an expiration date in 2021, then you wouldn't have to request a separate procurement card just because we transitioned systems from the Express card system to the procurement card system. You should be able to use your existing card. The only difference is that when your card is renewed, you'll receive a procurement card branding instead of an Express card. Similarly, Express Card Manager will no longer be used to reconcile transactions that are imported for your Express card. Instead, transactions will automatically be imported to Concur, where we will reconcile expenses with an expense report. One other big change from the Express card system over to the procurement card system is that there will no longer be a default index or default chart of accounts code that will automatically be charged after 10 days, which was how it was done previously. So in Express Card Manager, for those of you that are unaware, you would be able to tie a default index to your Express card. And that would mean that if you didn't submit any changes to your index prior to the transaction posting on the ledger, then that default index would automatically be charged for whatever Express card transactions that you had. In procurement, that is no longer in place, and any transaction that gets imported to Concur must have a chart of accounts string inputted. It will not automatically be charged to your default index because that no longer exists. So transactions will be imported to Concur, and they will sit there until reconciled in an expense report. Incurred card expenses should be reconciled either semi-monthly or monthly in the Concur system, and I will walk through how to do both requests and expense reports in the system for those of you that are unaware. So really fast, hopefully you could all see my screen still. You can navigate to Concur, which was explained previously, and then go ahead and click New and Start a Request. And similarly to the travel request, where you'd be able to input the request type here, instead of travel request, you do a card and payment related, card and payment products request. You'd input in the date, so August 5th, the express name. This would be if you were requesting a new card or if you were requesting any changes to your existing card or requesting that your card be inactivated. This would go through the request portal. So the request case, let's just say it's a new card request, so new card request. User type would be a UCSD employee, payment product types would be a UCSD procurement card. And then you'd have to enter in all of these red required fields as Brandon explained below. So in this case, I'll go ahead and enter in the admin code and the function, which I could search by code right here. And business purpose would be a new procurement card request. Now, before you submit a new procurement card request, it's important that you go through myself, the department administrator for the procurement card, so that we can provide you with the correct form and ensure that all of the requisite approvals are met. If you go ahead and submit a request without reviewing with me first as the administrator, your request will be denied. it's important that your request route through the business office first, so that all approvals can be met before the request is actually goes through the system. Anyway, once you've entered in all the information on the request header screen, you can go ahead over to the expenses tab, and here you'll be able to request a change to your card. So if you want to close the card, want to request a limit increase or decrease, say you have a purchase that exceeds the maximum amount in that time period, you'd be able to request a card limit or a card decrease here, or a new card request, which is what I will do here. So in your comment, you could put a new card request, placeholder. And your mail code. It's important that you enter in your mail code here, because your procurement card will automatically be, once the request is approved, it will be mailed to your mail card that you have on file. So they ask you to re-enter it here to ensure that it is correct. I know that because we're all working from home now, not everyone is at the office, but the way that it still is working right now is that your procurement card, once the request is approved, will be mailed to your mail code on file. If there is an exception that is requested, I would recommend putting it in the comments box, and then I will work with the procurement card team to send the procurement card to your address and see if an exception can be granted. Anyway, once you've entered in your request here, you can click the allocate button, which let me save anyway. Here you'll be able to enter in the chart string and the expenditure type if you've entered in a project on the request header. I didn't, so that's why it populates as blank right now. And you'll also be able to save your request separately. So let me cancel that right here. But anyway, once you've entered in your new request over here on the expenses tab, you would go ahead and save your request and then submit the request up here at the top right. I won't do that step right now though, because obviously this is not a new card request, it's just a placeholder. So I'll go ahead and delete this request for now. But going back over here to the main menu of Concur, this is how you navigate to new procurement card requests. Just go to start a request, and then this screen will populate where your travel requests, event requests, and card product requests will all be here as a request type. And then this is the information that you would input for any request changes to your existing card, or to request a new card, or to request that your card be inactivated. Anyway, I'm going to move back over to my PowerPoint to illustrate how to do an expense report once your transactions have imported to Concur. Now, normally this would be done on the Concur tab through expense and available expenses here, but because I am not a card holder, none of the transactions have imported for me, so I'll go back to my PowerPoint to illustrate this. So to create an expense report, you can go over to the expense tab, and under available expenses, all the transactions for which you are a card holder or a delegate for a card holder will appear here. And you'll have to click create new report and select the available expenses for which that report should be created. Once there, this little screen will pop up. The report type would be a UCSD procurement card. The report name would be the procurement card, the date of the reconciliation, and the name of the person for whom this is being reconciled. And similarly to the request form, you would have to fill out all the chart string information that is necessary, which is an account on which to place these expenses. So once you have, going back over to the screen right here, you can click create report once all of this information is inputted. And then once your report is created, you'll be directed to this screen right here, where you'll be able to upload the receipts for all of the transactions that were imported to Concur. You will be able to check for any errors and missing information, anything that's incomplete. Once all your receipts have been uploaded, the correct chart string has been selected for each transaction, and there are no errors, then you can go ahead and click the submit report button here up in the top right corner. Now, to go into each specific transaction and allocate to a specific chart string, you'll have that ability here by clicking into the transaction as seen here, and then clicking the allocate button, which will populate this chart string input screen right here, where you'll be able to input the funding source, the funds, the function, and the expenditure type and code for each transaction. So the key point here, allocate is a function in Concur used to charge and distribute expenses to multiple financial units or chart accounts. And if you are an approver for a procurement card, then you would go over here to approvals, and submitted request or expense report would be pending here under my tasks required approvals. And that is all I have for my presentation on procurement cards. But if you have any additional questions after this presentation, then please reach out to Dom BSO, dombso@ucsd.edu, and I'll be happy to answer any additional questions or troubleshoot any issues that you have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mickey. One comment I wanted to make on the procurement cards is there is information that's coming from campus that folks may hear that there are a lot of things where they're just saying, oh, go get a procurement card. This is really more of a campus item, and it's not necessarily what the Department of Medicine is doing. So before requesting an express card, please make sure that you're working with your division administrator. The department has some extra forms that have to be assigned and attached to any sort of submission that goes through. I'm putting in the chat our web address that has some of the information for us on procurement cards, and we will update that regularly as more information is received. There are significant costs and other issues with express cards, so that's why they are not just broadly issued as campus may suggest. If you submit a request for help and on processing a transaction, they just respond with get a procurement card. So please make sure to check the chat for that link. And you can always go to pulse.ucsd.edu/medcloud, and that will get you to the department's website as well.
Thank you, Ben.
Okay, we're coming towards the end. We do want to go back and touch base on the term chart string. The old system, we were using the term index. Index was actually a part of a larger string, the IFOPL, some of you may recall that. So the chart of accounts is a series of numbers, values that make up the chart string. The chart string is used in many ways, or excuse me, it is referred to in many ways. So you'll hear it referred to as the chart segment, COA, charts. It'll also be spelled in various ways, chart string 1 word, chart string 2 words. Those are all pretty much the same thing. Occasionally you will hear the term POTAF, and it is a shorthand for values that are in the chart string. And that is really something that's used in the PPM, the Project Portfolio Management, and it represents transaction. I know we don't all have access yet to reports where we can see the transactions that are in Oracle. Should be coming out soon, at least that's what we have been told. But that term is sometimes referred to or used as a chart string as well. So just be mindful of that. You can hear the same thing referred to in many different terms is the point that I'm trying to make. In order to know now what do I use instead of an index, there are 2 ways to go. If you are talking about a sponsored project fund, then you would contact your fund manager for that information. They can give you the chart string, and if it's a non-sponsored project index number that you need a chart string for, then you can either reach out to your DA or you can reach out to our email, the business office email, which is the dombso@ucsd.edu. So this is all for medicine indexes. If it is a non-medicine index, you will reach out to the contact for that department. If you have troubles with that, you can reach out to us and we can try and help you find out who that person is that you would contact. At the bottom of the slide here, I have just an example of what the entire chart string in the new financial system is made up of. These are all the components, starting with entity, rolling down to fund. So that is what the names are of those groups. Right underneath it would be an example of the terms for those, and then the numerical values underneath it. All that is available. More information is available as well in the user guide, the COA user guide. We have that here on the slide, so you can refer to that if you want some more detailed information about how the chart of accounts has been made up. And going down, the next section I just want to touch base on is paying invoices. Sam already went through the process for non-PO payments. As far as PO payments, just wanted to let you know that nothing has changed as far as how to get invoices paid. That's still the same process. I do want to let you know that Payment Compass is not getting all the information that it needs from Oracle in order to reflect invoices that have been paid. So there is a way to do that now. I have those guides for you in bullet number 2. The second section is for invoices that need to be paid from purchase orders. If you have invoices that you requested payment for that are non-PO payments, then there is a guide for that as well. You can go to the KPA, which you can refer to or you can get access to at ServiceNow. ServiceNow, also known as SNOW, that's a term that people will use for that application. At that location, at this website here, you can run through the steps in order to look up if a payment has been made on your non-PO payment. The last item I want to touch base on is training. There are a lot of training. There are a lot of courses going on. The website for that is the finance training website. They've got a lot of UC e-courses that you can take and retake if it's been a while and you want a refresher. They've got live classes that have occurred and they've recorded, and then live classes that are upcoming, so you can sign up for those. Lots of training materials are at that website too. They've got slides, they've got PowerPoints, they've got, PDFs. So check out those. I find them really helpful when I'm going through the process to refer to as I'm trying to process an action. If you have some process that you're trying to do that is not at the finance training website, you can go to ServiceNow, the SNOW website, and like Sam showed earlier, you can type in the search bar what it is you're looking for. You'll get lots of articles there. Lastly, if you have any questions, we're happy to we're happy to answer those. You can just reach out to us at DomBSO, and we will help you there. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Erica, and for all of our presenters, and thank you everybody for logging in and joining us today. This is first in what we probably anticipate to be a series to just try and supplement the training that's out there. So thank you for bearing with us. Hopefully the recording has worked. We'll try to make that available. Please remember, as Erica said, to email dombso@ucsd.edu with any questions that we haven't been able to get to answering today. So thank you all. This is definitely an interesting time for us as we all work through this new system. We're not yet the experts, but we're doing what we can to try and make this as streamlined as possible for the department. So thank you very much. Have a great and safe week.